Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the NFL slate on DraftKings for Week 14. Closely getting to the end of the season. I believe we got like 3 more weeks of the regular season, then I'll have some postseason videos out for the playoffs. But NFL season been flying by. We're on to Week 14, 13 games this week. Going to go through each position, talk about some of my favorite plays that I like, the studs I like. If there's value plays I like, I'll try and touch on them as well. Before we do get started, though, I would appreciate it if you guys would drop a like on the video. It does help me out a lot. And if you are new to the channel, if this is your first time checking out a video on my channel, thank you so much for clicking on the video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below so that way you won't miss out on any of my new uploads. But yeah, let's go ahead and look at quarterback for this Week 14 slate. At the top, we have, really to no surprise, Patrick Mahomes, most expensive quarterback, $7K at home against the Ravens. I have no problem paying up for Mahomes here. Even in a tough matchup against the Ravens, Mahomes has just been so good this year. Has yet to put up, I believe his lowest scoring game of the year was 20 fantasy points or something close to that. 20.06 against the Cardinals, Week 10. I believe that was his lowest scoring game. Then he had 20.82, so has yet to score under 20 fantasy points. I doubt he scores under 20 again. You're probably going to get about at least 20 to 22, 23 DraftKings points out of Patrick Mahomes here. There might be guys I feel safer going to for cheaper that I feel like have more upside, which is probably going to keep me off of Mahomes being like my most expensive or my most owned quarterback. But he does always project really well, even in against the Ravens. I'd imagine he projects really well. But I do like some quarterbacks for a little bit cheaper. Even though Drew Brees is on the road, definitely love this spot for him against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bucs have just been really bad defensively this year. Drew Brees on the road, we know, is something that's obviously a thing. He's not nearly as good on the road as he is at home. But can't deny the matchup. Great spot for Drew Brees. Also think there are cheaper quarterbacks I like besides Drew Brees. Under Drew Brees, I should say. So that's probably going to keep me off of Brees being like my most owned quarterback. I think on the other side of that game, you can definitely look at Jameis Winston. I expect Jameis Winston to be one of my more popular quarterbacks this week. At least the guy having a lot of my lineups. Just love the spot for him at home against the Saints. The Saints have so far this year been a team you really want to pass against. They're really stout against the run. Pretty pass funnel defense. So I expect Winston to be throwing the ball a ton in this game. We already know the Buccaneers don't have much of a running game. They don't run the ball a lot. Winston goes out there and chucks every game, throws the ball 30, 40 times. If the Bucs are playing from behind, which there's a good chance they could be, we could see Winston potentially throw the ball 50 times in this game. So I like him a lot at 6,200. I like the spot for Aaron Rodgers, but I think I'd rather play Winston. Even with the great matchup for Aaron Rodgers and him being cheaper, I honestly feel better about going to Jameis Winston and his matchup. Rodgers just hasn't shown a lot of upside this year. I don't think he's topped 20 fantasy points in 3 or 4 straight weeks. I'll pull up his game log real quickly. Hasn't topped 20 fantasy points in 2 weeks, but besides the game against Seattle, 18, 19, 15. Haven't seen a lot of upside at Aaron Rodgers. He probably is going to play a little bit better this week because Mike McCarthy got fired. I'm sure he's happy about that. But still, would rather play Winston over Aaron Rodgers. But the guy I do like for cheap, sub 5K or sub 6K, I like Deshaun Watson as a quote-unquote value quarterback. Not sure 5,900 if you can consider that a ton of value, but I think Watson is underpriced for this spot at home against the Colts. I like this game a lot as a potential shootout. 2 teams that have really good offenses. Andrew Luck been playing really well this year. I love Andrew Luck this week again. I think he's in play. I think I'd rather play Watson, but Luck at the same price for sure going to be in my player pool. For sure going to be a guy that I have in some lineups. I like pairing Luck with T.Y. I like Watson a lot. When we get to receiver, we'll talk about DeAndre Hopkins. I really like a Watson to Hopkins stack. I think that stack's probably one of the better stacks, quarterback receiver stacks of this slate. So like Watson a lot, like Luck at the same price. I think I prefer Watson, but definitely 2 guys I could go to for cheap. Some more sub 6K guys. Potentially go to Lamar Jackson again if he starts, 5,700 against the Chiefs. Don't mind him, but that's probably it for me value-wise. Like Josh Allen's been playing really well, but I'm just not buying it. Even at home against the Jets, 5,500 Josh Allen. I'll just avoid him this week. I'd much rather play Lamar Jackson, rather get up to Andrew Luck or Deshaun Watson, Rodgers, Winston. Just no way I'm going to pay 5,500 for Josh Allen when I can get other guys for a little bit more. So that's probably it for quarterback. Let's go ahead and move on to running back. There's definitely going to be a popular play at running back this week. Potentially be 2 popular plays, 2 popular value plays, maybe even 3, depending on how some injuries go. So we're going to have salary to spend, I feel like. So definitely going to be paying up for McCaffrey a ton this week. I've been playing him just every week. Dude just gets massive volume, plays pretty much every snap, barely comes off the field. Last week against Tampa Bay, I believe he played every snap. Got 10 carries, 106 yards, 10 targets, 9 catches, 55 yards, and a receiving touchdown. I'd expect a similar workload for Christian McCaffrey. If the Panthers are ahead, then he'll probably get a few more carries than he does targets. If the Panthers are playing from behind and they have to throw, then you'll probably see McCaffrey get about 10 carries and 10 targets again. Dude's just so involved, gets a ton of carries, just gets massive workload. Love Christian McCaffrey, even though 9,300 feels like a lot to pay for him. Not worried about the matchup with the Browns. I think we get another solid game out of Christian McCaffrey, and he's pretty much my favorite running back to pay up for. If I can fit in 2 of the expensive running backs, I will be trying to do so. Like I said, there's some value we'll talk about in a second. So I think my second favorite expensive running back would probably be Barkley, 8,900. Saquon Barkley, dude's just so good. Gets massive workload as well, a ton of carries, gets work in the passing game. I like the spot for Zeke, but I think I'd rather play Barkley over Zeke. And then Kamara kind of scares me a bit. His workload's starting to trend down a bit. Last few weeks, he has not been getting a ton of volume. Last week, he did get a lot of work in the passing game, 11 carries, 11 targets, 8 catches. That week before against Atlanta, though, only 1 target that game, 14 carries. He's been getting about 10 carries a week, and he'll also get about 4 to 5 targets. If the Saints are playing from behind, there's a chance Kamara could get a few more targets. I don't mind him at 8,100, but I think I'd feel safer going up to Ezekiel Elliott and Saquon Barkley. Honestly, if Melvin Gordon's going to be healthy, I'd rather play Melvin Gordon at 8K, but that's some news we're going to have to wait on. James Conner seems to be okay, but that's another injury we're going to have to watch. At 7,600, James Conner could potentially be a play against the Raiders. You obviously love that matchup. Aaron Jones, great matchup for him against the Falcons. One of the worst teams at defending the running back position. Aaron Jones is 7,200, which does feel like a lot to pay for him. I know last week he was pretty popular at like 6,700, I think was his price. And I know he did get into the end zone, but he did get some work cut away from him. Jamal Williams got plenty of snaps. I think Jamal Williams nearly played as many snaps as Aaron Jones. Last week, Jones got 11 carries, 4 targets. Did get into the end zone. I think Jamal Williams also got double-digit carries as well. But I would expect with Mike McCarthy fired, you're going to get some more work out of Aaron Jones. Feel better about the other guys, but if I need to go a little bit cheaper, don't mind Aaron Jones. But we talked a lot about the studs, so now let's try and hit on some value. There's definitely value at this position. If we go sub 5K or sub 4K, there's potential cheap plays. The number one cheap play for me, at least right now, not knowing these injuries between Melvin Gordon, between James Conner. Number one cheap running back for me is Jeff Wilson Jr. He's 3,800. He's going to be the starting running back for the 49ers this week. Matt Breida has already been ruled out. Last week, Breida barely got any work. I think he played like a few snaps and then he came off the field because he was injured. Jeff Wilson got 15 carries last week against the Seahawks. Also got 9 targets, so he's involved in the passing game, which you love to see on DraftKings. At 3,800, he's really hard to avoid this week. I know he's going to be very popular, but honestly, just might have to eat the chalk. Just have to play him in a lot of lineups. He allows you to do so much. I expect the workload to be there. Anytime you get a starting running back this cheap that's going to get 20-plus touches, just really hard to avoid. So, love Jeff Wilson Jr. He's going to be popular, but just makes a ton of sense. Hard to avoid. Probably the number one value running back on the slate. But there are other potential value running backs. If Melvin Gordon remains out, I think Justin Jackson, you can definitely play at 3,800. He is still behind Austin Eckler in the depth chart, but he did get some work last week against the Steelers. He got 8 carries, also got reception as well, so got 9 touches, was pretty efficient, 63 rushing yards, also had a touchdown as well, 15 DraftKings points. I'd imagine Justin Jackson gets a little bit more work. They could potentially use him in like first and second down situations, and then they could put Austin Eckler in passing downs. Maybe they do that if Melvin Gordon's out. Maybe Eckler just gets all the work. We don't really know. But Justin Jackson, 3,800. If Melvin Gordon remains out, you could go to him. And then if somehow James Conner does not play this week, Jalen Samuels is by far the best value running back on the slate. I expect James Conner will play. But if Conner's out, Jalen Samuels just going to get all the work. We've seen when Steelers running backs have been out this year, or just in the past, Mike Tomlin really doesn't do like a split the work kind of guy. He just gives the backup running back all the work. So if Connor's out, I'd expect Samuels gets 15 to 20 carries, gets some targets as well. And at 3,700 against Oakland, he'd be the best value running back. I would rank him behind Jeff Wilson, but probably be playing both guys in a ton of lineups as long as we get news that Connor does not play. But I would expect Connor plays. He seems okay, just hearing from reports. But I think that's it for running back, so let's move on to receiver now. This is another position where we have a lot of good stud plays. You got AB against Oakland, Mike Thomas against the Bucks, Devontae Adams against the Falcons. OBJ gets a matchup with the Redskins, Juju Smith-Schuster against Oakland, so a lot of good plays up top, but I don't think any of these top 4 or 5 guys are going to be core plays for me. I like going under 8K. I love this little three-man range right here with Julio against Green Bay, DeAndre Hopkins against the Colts, Mike Evans against the Saints. Those are the guys that really catch my eye, and obviously if I'm playing Watson, I'm going to be pairing him in most lineups, so love pairing him with DeAndre Hopkins this week. Really good matchup for DeAndre Hopkins. He went off earlier this year against the Colts, week 4. Got 12 targets, 10 catches for 169 yards and a touchdown. I think this is one of the most matchup-proof receivers when it comes to the NFL. And just when it comes to fantasy, if I had this guy in season long, I would start him every single week, no matter what the matchup was. Even if he's going up against Ramsey, Xavier Rhodes, whoever. DeAndre Hopkins just gets massive work, just gets targets, no matter what the matchup is. Watson's going to force him the ball. I expect we probably get at least 7-8 targets out of Hopkins here. And if the Texans are playing from behind, there's a chance we can get more targets for DeAndre Hopkins. I think this stack, Watson to Hopkins, I think they connect at least once, if not twice. So I love going to these guys this week. I think it's one of the better quarterback receiver stacks on the slate. I like Julio and I do like Mike Evans at same range, but DeAndre Hopkins by far my favorite player receiver if I'm paying up. 7,800. I like him a lot. Don't expect him to be really that popular this week. I think people will look other directions. Probably try and go up to AB or Thomas. Maybe Julio's popular this week. Maybe Mike Evans. Don't expect Hopkins to be very owned. But now let's look for other receivers. Like I mentioned, I do like T.Y. Hilton on the other side. I'll probably game stack this game, play a lot of Watson, Hopkins. I haven't looked at Ebron's price yet. I'm sure we'll be going back to Ebron, T.Y. Hilton. I like those guys a lot in that game. I think that does have a lot of stock potential. But I do want to touch on some value receivers. So sub 5K, if Deshaun Jackson remains out, Chris Godwin and Adam Humphries are both 4,900 and both make for great value receivers. I'd play Humphries even if D-Jack plays. If D-Jax is out, then I like Godwin as well, along with Humphries. D-Jax is out, then Godwin is probably my favorite option over Humphries. But you can honestly play both guys. They both got really good work last week. I think both of them got at least 7 targets. So Godwin and Humphries both at 4,900. Definitely like. Also really like Golden Tate. I think Golden Tate stands out as a clear value player receiver. He's finally starting to get involved into this Philly offense. Last 3 weeks he's got 8, 8, and 7 targets. He found the end zone on Monday Night Football, getting 7 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown. I like the spot for him against Dallas, playing back in a dome. Should be nice for Golden Tate. He should feel comfortable being back in a dome, which is where we know he did really well when he was with the Lions. Really like Golden Tate here. Like his price a lot at 4,800. I think he's one of the better value receivers, along with Chris Godwin and Humphries. Those are going to be the guys I'll look to if I'm going cheap at this position. But yeah, let's move on to tight end now. So looking up top here, Travis Kelce at home against the Ravens. Even in a somewhat tough matchup, I'd pay up for Travis Kelce. I think I'd rather play Kelce over Ertz. Kelce just has shown so much upside this year. I usually do like to go cheap at tight end, but we could have a lot of value on the slate, which might allow me to get up to a lot of Travis Kelce. One of my big mistakes last week in Week 13 was not playing enough Kelce. I played a lot of Ebron, a lot of the cheaper tight ends, so not having a ton of Kelce really burned me last week. Won't make that same mistake again this week. For sure going to have Kelce in as many lineups as I can fit him in. But let's look for cheaper tight ends if we do want to go cheap. I think Jordan Reed at 4,600, even with potentially Mark Sanchez in at quarterback, still makes sense. Jordan Reed's going to get volume every week. The Redskins just don't have a ton of guys to throw to. He got 5 targets on Monday Night Football, 4 catches for 21 yards. It was not a great game from Jordan Reed. I would expect a better game out of him. I do like the matchup at home against the Giants. So if I'm going a little cheaper at tight end, I like Jordan Reed a lot. I think Jimmy Graham at 4,400 makes sense as well. Potentially David Njoku as well as a value play. Probably Graham Graham Njoku and Jordan Reed. If I'm going cheaper, those are the guys I probably will land on the most. Maybe Cameron Brate, but don't feel great about Brate. Don't really know what his upside is. Think I'd rather get up to the other guys. But tight end, if I can fit in Travis Kelce at this position, I'm going to be trying to do that in as much lineups, or in as many lineups as possible. Ebron, I think you can definitely pay up for as well. It feels weird paying $5,700 for Eric Ebron, but he's going to get massive work. He got 16 targets last week, 10 catches, 81 yards. I'd expect pretty much double-digit targets again for Eric Ebron. $5,700, he's worth that price tag, even though it doesn't feel like it. I'd still play Ebron at that price. But like I said, if I can fit Travis Kelce in, I'm going to be trying to do that in as many lineups as possible. But now moving on to defense, let's quickly talk about some of my favorite defenses. Usually like to go cheap here. Rarely do I pay up at defense. So let's go ahead and look for cheaper defenses. Usually I'll try and find some cheap defenses at home. It's where I like to go. You got the Redskins at home against the Giants. You could potentially target them. If Joe Flacco does return, I don't mind playing the Chiefs defense against Joe Flacco, especially if he could be banged up. Really don't want to play them against Lamar Jackson, but if Flacco starts, don't mind going to the Chiefs. The Cardinals are at home against the Lions. Think you could possibly go there at $2,300. Maybe the 49ers at home against Denver, potentially in play. But if you want to pay up, probably my favorite pay-up defense would be the Chargers at home against Cincinnati. Just Cincinnati's looked so bad lately. I don't mind paying up for the Chargers, but like I said, usually try and go a little bit cheaper here. That's kind of where I'm going to land on. A lot of the defenses I've already talked about. Maybe like the Jets against the Bills. If you don't believe in Josh Allen, which I kind of don't, I would play the Jets down there at $2,400 against the Bills. But yeah, I think that's it for defense. I think that's it for the video, guys. So hopefully you did enjoy this video. Hopefully it helped you. If you enjoyed the video, I do appreciate you watching it. Make sure you click that like button down below. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. If you do have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT, or you can leave any comments down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But yeah, guys, good luck on this Week 14 slate. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.